devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. I am Jimmy Murphy, and my co-host Pierre McGuire will be joining me shortly. He is doing his Tuesday radio hit in Pittsburgh radio with Mark Madden right now as we speak, and he will be on probably around 4:15 Eastern here. Hope everybody's doing well out there. We were scheduled to have Bill Daly join us today. Unfortunately, his trip down south from New York to Florida this afternoon got delayed a bit. No idea why, but he was unfortunately unable to join us. He will make it up to us, he told us, so I appreciate that. I do know that he did not confirm this with me, but I've heard lots of chatter today that the NHL draft is definitely a go, the decentralized draft that is taking place at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles. There had been a lot of question marks around that, obviously, with everything going on in LA and everything going on in the world right now. There was some question marks that they might call that off, not the draft, but call the event at the Peacock off. But it appears by multiple sources I've spoken to that is on and a go. But again, it's not the same. No GMs, a lot of the agents won't be there. Just the scouts won't be there. So, but apparently, by all accounts, from what everyone's saying, they're going to go back to a regular centralized draft next year. And that would be great. No idea where that's going to be. We'll find out in the future, obviously, but we'll see what happens. But let's get into the Stanley Cup final. Game 6 tonight. The Florida Panthers can clinch their second straight Stanley Cup and their second Stanley Cup in their franchise's history with a win here. Some lineup changes we'll go through the Edmonton forward lines, and then I don't think there's any changes on Florida, but let's go through the Edmonton changes right now. Top line still looks the same. You got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, Corey Perry, and then Evander Kane, Leon Draisaitl, and Kasperi Kapanen back in. Though, I want to make sure on that one. Yeah, he's coming in for Arvidsson. So he is back in on the right wing of that second line. Jeff Skinner, Adam Henrique, and Trent Frederick on the third. Vasily Podkolzin and Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown. I really stressed my Boston accent when I said Janmark there, huh? And Connor Brown as your fourth line. Then a change on D. The first pairing still looks the same. Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, Brett Kulak, and then John Klingberg will come in on the right side, replacing Troy Stetcher, who played the last two games, though, as Pierre pointed out numerous times, he only played about 4.5 minutes in Game 4, as a lot of guys double shifted and they played a short bench, which, as we discovered, as Pierre predicted, played a role in the poor performance by the Oilers in Game 5 at home. They looked exhausted. Klingberg will be paired with Jake Wallman on the left there. And Stuart Skinner is back between the pipes for the Edmonton Oilers after not starting the last game with Calvin Pickard in there. So, I don't know. I mean, I see a question there in the Q&A as I was waiting to come on. I don't know who it was. Was it Randy? Yeah, there it is. You can pull that up if you want, Shane. Jimmy and Pierre, will the Oilers address? We'll ask Pierre this again if you want when he comes on. But Pierre and I actually had a conversation the other day, went through a little exercise trying to figure this out. Jimmy and Pierre, will the Oilers address the goalie issue if the Panthers win tonight, or if the Panthers, win this series? I don't see how you don't. I don't know. The market, when Pierre and I went through it in terms of trading for a goalie, it didn't seem like there's a great market out there right now. But I'm going to run this by Pierre when he comes on. You have to do it. I mean, this should have been addressed after last year, and I don't know why it didn't. And, this is just something where I don't think it's just the Oilers. I think the goalies have become undervalued at times, and I don't know why, because not to take anything away from the Florida Panthers defensemen and forwards, who are amazing, and they're, easily the most well-balanced team in the NHL, and that's why they're on the verge of their second straight Stanley Cup. But let's call a spade a spade. You still need a hot goalie, and they get one in Bobrovsky every year in the playoffs. So, I mean, I think goalies are a little undervalued. So I think Edmonton, though, has to value that position more now. And it's no knock on Stuart Skinner. And I think we could all agree that Skinner's more like a quasi 1B / backup, and Picker's just he's a backup. That's it. And, you can't be vacillating between your two goalies throughout the playoffs like the Oilers have had to do this year and last year. But I was thinking about goalies. We were running through teams, and one team that we didn't go through on their goaltending, and I don't know. We don't have Pierre yet. So I'll bring this up, but I'll bring it up when he comes on. One team that I was thinking about, and I wonder if they make a change, because I believe they've got some guys coming. They got a goalie coming. I forget his name. But would you see if you could acquire Aiden Hill from the Vegas Golden Knights? Nobody's told me he's available, but he's kind of up and down last year. He's locked in now to, let's see, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years left at 6.2. He does have a modified no trade clause with 6 teams, no trade on that list. I wonder if you get something there, because, Vegas is going to have to free up some money. And I think they're going big game hunting. I really do. I think they're going to be a major contender for Mitch Marner. And then, of course, next year, unless they do it, right as July 1st hits here in the offseason or into the season. But next year, Jack Eichel is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent. You wonder what he's going to get at that point. So it's interesting. I'd have to look more into what their goaltending situation is below the NHL level. But I don't know. Could be a guy they look at. But I agree with Randy. They have to do something about the goaltending. Win or lose, Randy. Even if they win, even if Stuart Skinner, I'm going to say this right now. Even if Stuart Skinner shuts out the Panthers in the next 2 games, are we still convinced that he's got enough consistency in him going forward in his career to do that more often? I don't know. You can always catch lightning in a bottle, right? And get on a little roll in the playoffs. But I agree with Randy. You have to address that next year. So be interesting to see what happens there. While we wait for Pierre, we'll take a few more questions. Let's pull them up, Shane. What do we got? Franco, he would probably not be target number 1 for the Habs, but is Phil Deneau a viable option at 2C short term with 2 years left on his contract and Hage developing? Franco, if he's available, I'd look into it. I always, didn't like that the Canadians had to get rid of him. I understand what happened, but I think that he was a valuable piece, obviously a huge piece in that 2021 run to the Quasi Cup final, whatever we want to call that year. It was a weird year, right? That's when they did the Canadian division and all that. The Canadians were actually the Campbell Trophy winners. They were the Western Conference winners in that Cup final, if I'm not mistaken, when they lost to Tampa Bay. I don't know. And like as JFed said, he chose to. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if he chose to leave Montreal. He didn't appreciate that they wouldn't give him what his market value was at the time. So he chose to get market value somewhere else. I can't blame a player for that. I know it's tough for fans to see that sometimes, but you can't blame a player for that, in my opinion. But let's look at the Kings' depth in the middle. Could they afford to let him go? Let's go to the Kings right now. What do we got? And speaking of the Kings, if you guys want to check it out, I'd appreciate it. I did an interview one-on-one with our good friend Ken Holland, who we've had on here twice on the eye test. And he was great as he was on air. He was great for the interview. And I posted that up on RG Media. So you can find it there. And it's tweeted on my Twitter handle at Murphy's Law 74. Let's look at the roster breakdown for the Kings. I don't know. I don't see why the Kings would be in a rush to get rid of him. I just don't. Unless I'm not thinking of somebody that's coming up the ladder they want to go put into the lineup. But I think they like their depth up the middle. They'd like to get some wings. So we'll see what happens there. All right, next question. Juice _031017. Jimmy, the NHL draft is next week. Which prospects do you get a sense of that the Boston Bruins are interested in going into the draft? I think there's a few. I know that they're trying to move up. They're entertaining offers, as I've already reported. They are entertaining offers on the pick to potentially either move up or they'd move down, but also pick up a roster player for the 7th overall pick. So they're exploring all sorts of scenarios there. I can't say something right now because it's exclusive to RG because I gave them the story, but there'll be a story about that tomorrow in RG. So let's wait till that goes live. And if you guys want, I can give reaction to it there, and I'll get more in depth to who are some of the guys they're keying in on if they do use that 7th overall pick. All right, what do we got? Alex Ivanowski. If the Panthers win tonight or Friday, are we looking at the closest thing we've seen to the Broad Street Bullies of 74-76? I think so. Just no Dave Schultz. Alex, I don't know if you're older than me. Pierre would be able to answer that better than me. I don't really remember the Broad Street Bullies because I was born in 74. So I don't even know if I was 2 by the time they're 75. Yeah, I wasn't. I was November 4th. So I wasn't even 2 by the time that second season you referenced there ended. I'm guessing, though, based on the research I've done and talking to so many people, Pierre's age and beyond that remember that, I think so. I think you're on to something there. But I also wonder, and it'd be great to ask Pierre, were the Panthers a better, well-rounded team, whereas the Flyers just seemed all about, fighting and hitting and everything? Like, did the Panthers play a better defensive game? I don't know, but Shane, remind me in the chat room. We'll bring that up when Pierre comes on, because I would love to get Pierre's take on that. He would know the answer much better than me. All right, next question. Juice _031-017. How is this decentralized draft going to work? Will Gary Bettman announce the draft picks himself, or will the teams announce the pick from their own war rooms? Okay, so Juice, as far as I know, Bettman and Daly and, some of their staff will be there. The hierarchy of the NHL staff, front office staff will be there. And I think that he will announce some of the picks, but I also read recently, and I don't know, I apologize for not being able to credit. I don't remember who tweeted it. Might have been Pierre LeBrun. It might have been, another NHL insider. So I apologize to whoever did, and I'm not giving you the proper credit. But they're also going to do like we saw last year with celebrities announcing the team's picks. Remember when Celine Dion announced Demidov? So they're going to have celebrity people. And of course they want to do that because, right, they're in LA, right? So, you wonder if maybe, I think the goal would be, so let's say the Bruins are picked. Let's say the Canadians are picking. And you're in LA and your Hollywood's right there. Can you get what's his name, the actor that's a huge Canadians fan? Guys, do you remember? And I think he's from Westmount. Really funny dude too. What the heck's his name? Maybe Shane's gonna tell. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Shane. Jay Baruchel. He'd be like, that's a guy I could see doing the Habs, right? So maybe they'll get some actors that are from each city. If Matt Damon or Ben Affleck are there, that have them do the Bruins. I don't know, but they're going to have some celebrities, whether it's actors or musicians, are going to take part in that as well. All right, what's the next question? Franco, giving the SKA connection, that's the KHL team that Demidov played for. Would Kuzmenko be a good line mate and support for Demidov? Great question, Franco. Should the Habs target him in free agency? I say if he makes it to free agency, 100% yes. I do know that you'll see it in the interview I did with Ken Holland. He is still working diligently to sign Kuzmenko and Gavrikov. But I got to say, I didn't get a vibe one way or the other, like where it is right now, if it's heading in the right direction, if it's regressed. There wasn't hardly any change in his tone or optimism or lack of from when he was on our podcast, was it like a week after he got the Kings job? So I can't really give you a strict update on that other than that they're talking still. I get the feeling Gavrikov's going to be the one to make it, and then they end up signing Kuzmenko. But if they don't, I think that's a great idea for the Canadians. Go ahead. Next question. Oh, we got Pierre. So that's why you can't see his beautiful face. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
Doing very well, Jimmy. Great to talk to you. I apologize to you and our great loyal viewers and listeners. Just strutting through the airport here in Fort
That's right,
Lauderdale.
in the airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Everything on time? Flight's not delayed?
No, flight's delayed, but that's okay.
That's kind of commonplace now, right? You're used to it.
You get used to that.
Yeah, exactly. Pierre, we had I took a few questions while I was waiting for you, and we'll get to those because there's one I want to bring back up. But first off, let's just talk about the latest news out of Game 6 in the Stanley Cup Final. As I'm sure you're aware because you've been doing hits all day on it. Just your take on the lineup changes for the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, with Stuart Skinner playing, I'm not surprised at all. I know we talked about it yesterday. I thought they would do that. He's an Edmonton draft pick. He's a kid that grew up in Edmonton. He's really, I think he's really earned the trust and the loyalty of the star players there, whether it's Draisaitl, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Darnell Nurse. They're all Edmonton Oiler draft picks. They all grew up together. I think it's one for all and all for one. And so I'm not surprised that he's playing. In terms of the other stuff that they're doing, I mean, that's just a feel from the coaching staff. Unless you're there every day or you're at practice every day, it's hard to really form an opinion.
Right.
But I think I could form an opinion, Jimmy, on the goalie. And I think they probably feel Stuart Skinner gives them the best opportunity to win.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. I mean, look, overall, he hasn't played that poorly, Pierre. He's had some real gems in the playoffs. So I'm with you on that. Just in terms of, like, I'm with you too. The other ones are just sort of, maybe just switch it up a bit type moves. But Klingberg coming in for Stetcher now, as you so correctly pointed out right after Game 4, how Stetcher didn't play much in that game and they ran a short bench. And you predicted, and they were, that the Oilers would be a lot more tired or exhausted than the Panthers in Game 5, and it showed. They bring in Klingberg right now. Based on how he's played, do you see him getting normal ice time, or do you think they might shorten the bench with him tonight?
No, I think he'll get probably between 14 to 18 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Depends on what they decide to do with the second power play. So that's something you really don't know unless you're in their dressing room. Bouchard's going to play the most minutes for them and with Nurse. And then we'll see what happens with Klingberg and the rest of the defense. But to me, for Edmonton, it's pretty simple, Jimmy. Stuart Skinner's going to have to play great. Connor McDavid's going to have to try to take over the game. And to me, the biggest thing is they've got to stay within one goal of Florida. If they fall behind by 2 goals, I don't think they can come from behind in this game. Closeout games are a different animal. Players are way more focused. There's way more attention. And if you get a lead in a closeout game, it's really hard for the team chasing to get back in the game.
Pierre, I don't know how many times you've been in a situation. I don't know the official count, but I know you've been in the situation of facing elimination in a series. When you're facing elimination, is there a plan? Because sometimes we'll hear fans say this, or analysts or reporters will say it, but I want a coach's point of view. Is there ever a time where you say to your team, like, look, if you guys get out of this first period tied on the road facing elimination, we're in really good shape? Or do you just say you go out there full force? Like, how do you balance sort of that approach where you don't want to say that you're playing for a tie because you want them to do as well as they can, but at the same time, give them the confidence that, like, hey, if you're down by 1 or you're tied 1-1, we're good. We've done our job, and now we can go forward and really play our game. How do you approach that situation?
I don't think it's really wise to try to create situations where players are facing mind games. You just go out and play the very best that you can, and you manage the situation. So if you're ahead by 2, you say, okay, here's how we're going to keep defending our lead. If you're down by 2, here's how we're going to get back in the game. But I think if you create expectation and it's not met, you've not only lost the expectation battle, but you've also lost a little bit of the belief in your room.
Right.
Because everybody's telling the players, you got to do this to be successful. And then all of a sudden, you're not successful with everything you told them to do. They're like, oh, man, this plan's not working. So you got to be really careful when you create expectation.
Pierre, we've touched on this a bit before, but just because we're here now in this situation with the Panthers ready to clinch again. They had plenty of chances to do it, obviously, last year in the final. How much of that experience do you expect to see in their first period in terms of like, we're not getting to that point again. We're closing this thing out. How much do you expect to see that off the hop?
A lot. Jimmy, I think I spoke with you earlier today about this. You don't go up to Edmonton after losing a heartbreaking game in overtime on home ice and win a game 5 the way they did it, resoundingly win a game 5, and then come back home and lay an egg, knowing you might have to go back to Edmonton for another 6-hour flight there and another 6-hour flight back. It's amazing how this works. Teams that go on the road and they win and they have a chance to clinch it at home, they usually seal the deal. Doesn't always happen, but usually they seal the deal.
Yeah. One year, I think, where it didn't happen, right, was, remember Bruins Blues?
Well, here, what happened, it's 100%. They went in game 6 and they blew St. Louis out. And I would just say this in defense of all the people that were watching that are Bruins fans, if it's not for Jordan Binnington, the first 10 minutes of that game, that thing's probably 5 or 6-0. St. Louis wasn't even in the game the first 7 to 10 minutes of that game 7. And, Binnington deserves a lot of credit. The goalie does matter. There's no question. And that's why I'm saying if Stuart Skinner can have the game of his life tonight, you never know. But if you did a tale of a tape, Jimmy, right now, who would you rather have tonight? Bobrovsky or Skinner? Who would you answer?
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky, for sure.
Yep. Well, good segue there. So there's a couple questions that were already asked, and Shane, I don't know if you can find the goalie one again that we let off with Randy and bring it up, but I think it's a question we need to talk to Pierre about. So let's say they lose this series, Pierre. You and I did this. I'm glad Randy brought this up because we did a little exercise the other day, so we can kind of do a mini one here. Do you believe the Oilers will address the goalie issue in the offseason finally? Or, as we looked at, can they, Pierre?
Oh, I think they will address it somehow, some way. The problem is there's not a lot of options right now, and that's the exercise that Jimmy's alluding to. And we did it starting geographically. We started in Florida. We worked our way up the eastern seaboard. Jimmy said one that could be available is Freddie Anderson. But I said to Jimmy, and he agreed, does that really address what Edmonton's about right now? And probably it doesn't. So you just keep going up the eastern seaboard, and you say, nope, Rangers aren't trading their goalie. Nope, Islanders aren't trading their goalie. Nope, very surprising if Swayman would be traded out of Boston. So you start doing the math, and you start seeing all these teams. They're not a lot of number one guys that are better than Stuart Skinner right now that could be available. In fact, I don't know if there are any.
Yeah. One guy that we didn't look at the other day that I want, and I just kind of toss it out to our listeners and viewers there. And I don't, you might know their minor league or their prospect system coming up better than I do. Not might, you will. The Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
They've got a lot of different contract scenarios they got to look at, whether it's guys they currently have or going out and being aggressive in the market. They're constantly being linked to Mitch Marner. It's all hearsay right now. But what I want to get to is, do you think Aiden Hill could ever become available?
I don't know. They're not afraid to put elite goalies and Stanley Cup winning goalies available. Look what they did to Marc-Andre Fleury.
That's what I was thinking.
So they're not intimidated by anything. I mean, if they really are in the Mitch Marner thing, they're going to have to, Jimmy. Honestly, they're going to have to trade a very high-profile player out of there. And I hate to say names, but, the name that keeps coming up that I hear from hockey people is Tomas Hertl. Yep. And I don't know if that's legitimate or not. I just don't know. But if they really want to be in the Marner sweepstakes, I mean, they're going to – and I get it. I know it's a no-tax state. I understand. I totally understand. And, Jack Eichel's a heck of a centerman. And, you look at what Mitchell just had. He was playing with a heck of a centerman with Austin Matthews. Mm-hmm. So, that part of the game's not going to disappear for Mitchell. He'll play if he goes there.
Right.
But, Mitch, Jimmy, I don't know what George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon would be prepared to move to make room for Mitchell Marner, but it'll have to be something substantial.
And also remember, as I pointed out to our viewers before you came on, Pierre, too, Eichel is entering the final season of his contract. I would be shocked if that didn't work out, but that's something money-wise and cap-wise they're going to have to address. So you got to factor that in looking ahead, too.
Agreed. Very well said. Totally agree.
All right. And then the other question. Now, I couldn't answer this, Pierre, because, and I'm not trying to make you feel old, my friend, but I was only not even 2 years old, like 1 3/4 when this was going on. Somebody, I forget who, if we could bring up that Flyers question. I think it was Alex. Yeah, Alex asked this question. If the Panthers win tonight or Friday, are we looking at the closest thing we have seen to the Broad Street Bullies of 74-76? I think so, says Alex. Just no Dave Schultz. What's your take on that, Pierre?
Well, there was more than Dave Schultz there. Gary Dornhofer was a nasty piece of business. Moose DuPont wasn't exactly a nice guy. Oris Kinderchuk was really nasty. I mean, you go do a tail of tape. Don Selesky wasn't exactly a nice guy. They were a savage group, and they had a lot of good players. People don't talk enough about Tommy Bladen. People don't talk enough about Reggie Leach. So I would not say that. I think the system that Florida plays is one of the most difficult systems to play against that I've seen over the last 35 years in the league. Wow. I would have liked to have seen our really good Pittsburgh teams in 91 and 92 play against these guys. Because I know one thing, we could skate with them because we were really fast. We could hit with them because we were really big. And I think the skill of our defense might have exposed some of their really aggressive forechecks. So I would have liked to have seen our teams. Obviously, you can't do it, but I would have loved to see the opportunity to play against a team like Florida. But I'd say systematically, I'm not sure I've seen a team in the last 35 years as strong systematically as Florida is.
Wow, that's high praise. All right, let's get back to the questions then. Let's keep going here. What do we got? And I'm going to give you my picks after the questions today because there's one I'm thinking about. I haven't decided yet. All right, Alex Ivanowski. I'm worried about the Oilers' big picture. Draisaitl turns 30 in the fall and McDavid 29 next year. Time seems to be ticking if they don't win 2 more games, especially with Holloway and Broberg gone. What's your thoughts on that, Pierre?
Oh, I think there's going to be some serious questions asked after this. What's the long-term plan for the Edmonton Oilers? Because the problem you have in the neighborhood that they're in right now, Winnipeg's still going to be good. Vegas is still going to be good. Anaheim's going to be a lot better. LA's going to be good. San Jose's starting to get better in a hurry. Utah's going to be super aggressive. And Dallas doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And, Minnesota is going to have a ton of cap room. They're in a very ugly area. Like their neighborhood's rough, really rough. So I think the window's open a little bit more for them, but not much longer.
Yep. It's definitely going to be interesting there. All right. Next question. Franco, can a team captain be heavily involved in hockey ops work? It seems McDavid is, Knobloch being his former coach, Jeff Jackson being his former agent, and Connor Brown being his former line mate. Pierre, you would know more than me, but I can just say from my experience covering the Bruins, I mean, I had some of the GMs like Chiarelli and Sweeney after they told me, they bounce ideas off the guys. I don't think they're like the end all be all decision makers in the room at the end, but I was told that they at least, get a feel for it.
I think you need to have a level of communication with your players.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean your players are running the team. It means that you appreciate the opinions of your players and your players will appreciate you appreciating them, if that kind of makes sense. So no, and especially with the newer players today, the younger guys, they need that. They want that. Their work habits are amazing. They really are. These guys are so committed to the game. All the players that are playing pro hockey, and it doesn't matter at what level. I mean, if you're getting a paycheck from somebody to play, you should see the work these kids all put in. It's just amazing to me. Yeah. And they're to be saluted. So I think if you're running a team, you definitely search out the opinion of your players. Doesn't mean that you weigh them as much as you would maybe your most trusted advisor, but you definitely need to listen to them. There's no question.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you want to see if the personalities will fit, Pierre, right? Like if you've got a tight-knit locker room like Florida that really prides itself on the culture and all that, it's not just about the skill you're bringing in. There's a lot of intangibles that I would imagine you want to bounce off as many people as you can, right?
Absolutely. I think that's perfectly said.
All right, next question. Juice _031-017. Hypothetical question. If you put Sam Montembeault on the Oilers the last 3 years, they win at least one cup. Monty was top 5 in the NHL in goals saved above expected. I don't know, Pierre.
I can't say that.
I can't really answer that.
I don't know. Here's a stat that won't go away. This is for our loyal listeners and viewers. 1988, Grant Fuhr was the goalie of record for the Edmonton Oilers. That's the last time that a goalie for a Stanley Cup winning team had a save percentage below 900. That's the last time, 1988.
Wow.
Stuart Skinner is below 900 right now. And so is Calvin Pickard. So that's a stat that can't be debated. That's the last time, 1988.
Wow. But Pierre, like, you watched it more closely than me. You were kind of in the prime going into your career then. Like that, those Oilers teams, so they obviously had a little goaltending issue, but they were able to overcome it. How were they able to overcome that?
They outscored the opposition. They were so much.
It's just that simple,
more,
huh?
Yeah, Messi.
Wow.
So if you look at Anderson, Gretzky, Messier, Yari, Curry, they would bombard you with offense. And the biggest thing was, Coffey was there. People forget all these. They had Rayo Ruotsalainen. They had so many good offensive players. And then they had, big physical guys like Dave Hunter and like Dave Semenko and like Dr. Randy Gregg. And, they just Jeff Bukaboom. They had nasty people there.
Wow.
And I say that in a very complimentary way. So,
right.
It's Edmonton could outscore their problems, but Grant Fuhr was the perfect goalie for those teams along with Andy Moog. They were a great tandem. They had an awesome partnership. And, Grant could face a bazillion shots. He would never get worn out. He was amazing that way. So, even though the numbers aren't very friendly, I can tell you, talk to any of the Edmonton Oilers players, they felt they could play that way because Grant was so good and so was Andy.
Was Grant good on breakaways, Pierre?
Grant was good on everything.
Really?
He's just an amazing athlete. Andy was more technical. Grant was just more athletic.
Okay. Yeah, because, imagine there were a lot of odd man rushes sometimes with a team that's always thinking offense. So, all right.
There were.
Yeah. All right, next question. McGinnis picks. What's up, Andy? Outside of Leon and Connor and Skinner, who has to step up the most tonight for Edmonton? That's a great question.
I think Bouchard, the power play's gone flat for Edmonton. Bouchard's a big part of it. I don't think he's been making very good decisions on the power play. He's getting a lot of shots blocked. He's taking his time, his peripheral vision to get the puck either to McDavid or Draisaitl hasn't been great. So I think it's really important for him to be good. And I think Skinner's going to have to be really good, Jimmy. He's going to have to be.
Pierre, another guy I wonder, because, man, did he just take over game 2. Evander Kane, this would be such a great time for him to replicate what he did in that game or even come close to it. Don't you agree?
Yeah, Kane's big game was game 1. He was
game 1, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. Yep. There's been a lot of games. I
know. With all the overtimes, they all blend in.
Yeah, Kane had 8 or 9 hits. I think he had 9 hits in game 1, but they were devastating hits. There were a couple on Barkov and a couple on Ekblad that were really ruthless. They were great hits, totally clean, but they were barbaric, and they left an imprint. He was not nearly as effective in game 2. Even though he had a high number of hits, the hits were not the same, of violent type hits that he had in game 1. Yeah. They could use him to be physical without taking penalties tonight.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the discipline. He just completely lost his discipline after that game. And,
I agree.
But what would be great is if he finds that game, Pierre. I'm thinking, like, when you're facing elimination, and we were talking about how important the first goal can be in the opening period, he feels like the type of guy that could really help them overcome that, onslaught in the beginning and set the tone the other way if he could get some of those big hits or even a goal. So that he's my X factor, I think, for tonight.
Well, that's a good call. Good call by you.
All right, next question. Mike 0909. Thoughts on Montreal offering Taves a modest contract? He's a seasoned leader. He might be a potential 2C, if not a third or fourth left shot C. Also has a history with Doc and can maybe help him rebound.
Yeah, I would definitely want to pursue Jonathan Taves. But the Doc stuff, I wouldn't put too much into that.
Yeah.
But I definitely would want to pursue him. I would have significant interest in him. You got to remember, I'd be surprised if they're going to re-sign Christian Dvorak. So that opens up the 3C position. I don't think Jake Evans is a real pure number 3 guy. I think he's an elite 4, which is perfect. And then you go out and find a number 2. But Taves' leadership component is mammoth.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said. I heard you on with Mitch yesterday when you were talking about Taves, and he said, yeah, but Pierre, he hasn't played in so long, and if you maybe just want to say what you said there, like I loved what you said about it. He's got so much more that can compensate for that and can really kind of rule that out as a factor.
Jonathan Taves walks into any NHL dressing room. Doesn't matter how many stars are there. Very few of those players will ever have the pedigree he has. Think about the winning, whether it's the World Junior in 06 or 07, whether it's the Olympics in 2010, where he's a player of the Olympics, winning the Cup as a captain in 2010, 13, and 15, winning the Olympics in 14. This guy's an unbelievable winner. And the pedigree that he has is eye-opening. And it really gets people's attention. And he's a fantastic leader. He's intense. He's appropriate. I'm a huge fan. I've had some amazing meetings with him over time that he's been in the league and I've been around the league. So I'm a big fan. I think he's a tremendous, tremendous person.
I think he'd be great for where that Canadiens dressing room is right now in terms of maturing and development. So, all right, next question. Simoke hockey training. Question for Pierre. What adjustments do you think Leon has to do to avoid getting kicked out of the draw? Is it a matter of him jumping early? I'm just wondering what you've seen on it.
He's trying to cheat because he's getting overwhelmed and he's not getting a lot of support from the wings. If you look at Florida, their wingers are always jumping. Edmonton's aren't jumping nearly as quick. So that should be a team adjustment, not for Leon. The other thing is Leon, I can see it. He desperately wants to win the draw because he knows McDavid's not very good on them. And Henrique has struggled, and I thought Adam would be better. So and Matthias Janmark's more of a winger than a center. So they need him to step up and deliver face-off wise. And one of the things I would do is I'd have Leon, he's so big, tie up and have support from the wingers. Just tell him it's a 5-man commitment to win the draw. It's not one guy, it's 5 guys.
Perfect. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you see the Stars trading Robertson?
There's so much noise around this player. I don't know what they're going to do, but right now, if you believe all the insiders, it sure looks like they're going to trade him. But I haven't heard that from anybody that's involved in Dallas.
I'm with you, Pierre, and I know somebody that's there and been there for a bit, and he's just like baffled at it. I mean, he's like, yeah, are we going to have to make some tough decisions cap wise? Could he be one? Yes, but people have just almost presented it like it's just a certainty that he's gone. I don't think it's that way yet. I think he could get traded, but I don't think it's a certainty. All right. Next question. Rodney Redcliffe, would Stamkos fit with the Habs?
100%. but
yes, please.
Yeah, he would definitely fit. But I don't see that happening. But yes, the answer is yes, he would.
All right, next question. Juice _031 017. Who was the better player in their prime, Patrice Bergeron or Alexander Barkov right now? I don't feel comfortable answering because I covered Patrice for so long, Pierre, because I can't be completely objective. I'm just going to be honest. So I'll let you take that one.
Well, Barkov's got to win a few more Selkies if he's going to be as good as Bergeron. They both have 1 cup. Yeah, it's a great debate point, boy.
It is.
That's a really good one. Pretty similar. pretty
I mean,
similar.
if Barkov wins this one, which could happen tonight or Friday, does that put him slightly ahead yet, or is it still
No, because then
I
look at the Olympics.
Oh yeah.
And Barkov hasn't won there, and
Nope.
Barkov didn't win World Junior Gold. Bergeron did. He played on a line with Corey Perry and Sidney Crosby in 05.
Yep.
So this is a tough one. Like, they can go back and forth. Let's put it this way. If you were coaching and you had either one of those guys, you wouldn't be losing your job very often.
No, exactly. All right, next question. A moment of clarity. Will any teams be able to take advantage of the Olympic break? Maybe younger teams that can practice during that time, or just rest?
Can't practice.
I was just going to
during the
say that. Yeah,
Olympics.
they won't let you practice.
No, but you know what? You could get, if a younger team doesn't have a lot of players going, they could get some quality rest and maybe put it to good use.
Yeah.
I could see that, but no,
that's huge at that time of year. All right, next question. Secretor Gentman. Hi guys, difficult to compare, but how would Florida fare against the 76-79 Habs and the 79-83 Islanders? Different times, I know.
No, but very good question. Very fair.
I like these questions.
I think they'd have a tough time with Montreal because of the big three: Savard, Robinson, and Lapointe. That would have been a big problem for Florida. They haven't played against a defense like that. So I don't know if they'd score enough. Dryden was every bit as good as what Bobrovsky has been. So the goalie matchup would be probably slanted a little towards Montreal. In terms of the Islanders, boy, oh boy, that'd be tough for Florida too. So much depth. Potvin would be just really difficult to deal with on the back end. Thomas Johnson. Yeah, those are two real good examples of teams that would cause problems for Florida. And like I said, I think our 91 and 92 Penguins teams would have caused problems for Florida too.
All right, next question. Franco, given the Ska connection, we asked this one earlier, but it's good they brought it up again. Given the Ska connection, would Kuzmenko be a good line mate in support for Demidov in Montreal? Should the Habs target him in free agency?
Yeah, I would. I went and watched Kuzmenko a lot before he came over. We had a lot of interest in my last employer in the league. Couldn't get into St. Petersburg because the war had just started with Ukraine. But did a lot of watching of the player. I would be a bit hesitant on that if I were Montreal.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I interviewed Ken Holland there, Pierre, and just the vibe. He says he's still talking to them, but the vibe I get is he feels a little closer on Kuzmenko. That's the vibe I got from the combo than Gavrikov. So who knows if he even reaches market? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see exactly.
It looks like that's it though. I think there was one that got in under the clock there. Shane Rodney Redcliffe. If you can pull it, there we go. Rodney says, wouldn't it be cool to have Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews with Lane Hudson feeding them the puck?
Yeah, that's not happening. But yeah, that would be good. That'd be good.
Good stuff. I love all the classic questions about the different generations and pitting those teams against. That was fun.
Yeah, I think that's really good actually.
Good
and
stuff,
let's not forget those good Red Wing teams that Scotty had from 95 to 2002. Those Red Wing teams were pretty special too.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, I hate to do this, but I'm
go ahead, my friend.
Scrambling for a plane.
Get there. Safe travels. All right. We'll talk.
Talk to you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
McGuire, catching a plane down there in Fort Lauderdale, or I forget if he said he was on the connection one or not, but good to have him at least join us here on the eye test. Thanks to everyone there for our questions and for everyone watching or listening at home. And like I said, it's time now. I saved them for the end here because this could be the last game of the year. Knock on wood. I don't think it will be, but we'll see. So let me tell you about Betway. You can still go all the way with Betway. And even if your first bet loses, if you're a new member, you can get up to $200 credit. That's right. They will pay you to lose. So go to the QR code right in front of you there. If you're watching, sign up for your membership to redeem the welcome offer, or you can go to the details section on the website and do so there. Remember, it's only available for new customers. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus, and you always must bet responsibly. All right, let's get to my sick pick of the night on game.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, right now, like I said, right there, I don't think this one's over. It's just the way things have gone. Nothing seems to make sense. Like Pierre's pointed out already. I mean, if you look at the stats and you just look at the tail of the tape, really, there's no way this thing should even be in game 6 yet. But it's there because the Oilers are one of the most resilient teams, if not the most resilient of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, in my opinion. They don't give up, and they're pesky, and they won't go away. As one of my buddies said, they are the cockroaches of the NHL right now. They just never go away, and that's meant as a compliment. I like the Oilers on the money line, plus 130 to force a game 7. However, I don't know if they win that game 7. It would just make the way things are going. I could see them win on the road and then lose at home. There's something about the road teams now winning more, and Florida is the prime example of it. So like them on the money line, and I got 3 props for you. For them. Brad Marchand and the Panthers over 2.5 shots. So he has to get 3 shots or more. That's at plus 130 value. Connor McDavid to score 2 goals or more. Here's some good value for you. 950 plus 950. So if you bet $100, you're winning 950. All right. So that's a great one right there. I'm surprised at that, because you got to think McDavid is throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the net. And that's why I also like him on plus. He's over 4 shots. Well, it has to be 4 shots or more at plus 130. He's got to get 4 shots or more, and you win the bet. I like Bouchard to get 3 or more blocks at plus 210. So 3 or more block shots for Bouchard. And then I also like Stuart Skinner to make over 25.5 saves. So 26 saves or more. And that's at minus 110. All right. Thanks to Shane working the boards there. Everybody enjoy the game. We'll be back here tomorrow. I'm not sure if we have a guest or not, but we will definitely recap everything that happens in game 6 and maybe look ahead to a game 7, or we'll be looking ahead to the NHL draft and free agency. Until then, this has been another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.